I've been riding stuff from my rocking cradle to dogs, bicycles, and ponies, and one thing all these have in common is the initial getting used to. And no matter what you are used to now, getting on a different bike or horse or car, or kissing a stranger will present sensations that are somewhat unexpected. The seat, the weight, the height, the sound, the clutch engagement, all these factors will contribute to your excitement, a tinge of fear or joy, some disappointment or surprise. In 2006, I bought a brand new GS1200, but could never find the hooter in time. There was a hooter button, but placed in a new, improved location, more creative, to make space for the 3 indicator buttons that now do what one button does on a Japanese bike. The improved location of the hooter button was so non-intuitive it could not be accessed in a reflex. It required close visual scrutiny and activation of the occipital brain lobe, an action that was never as fast as the approaching chicken. I blamed the creative team at BMW for the demise of at least 3 Mozambican fowl. The latest GS have an array of software that needs to be conquered before the basic functionality of the older models can be accessed. On an old GS, you would typically start the engine and rev it as you please. The new engine has a soft limit, predetermined by some effeminate, law-abiding, gutless mix between a jar brain and a jellyfish. We employed a keyboard and a spreadsheet to calculate the optimal levels of excitement a biker should be exposed to. Even your adventure GPS will conspire to prevent you from venturing into any kind of excitement. Its default routing will insist on taking you to the most boring highway, in the slowest lane with the least CO2 emissions, to the healthiest coffee shop at the closest mall. It is the default setting of civilization, and it has corrupted your motorcycle CPU. The old bike could cross a shallow riverbed with little effort, but the new gets stuck on a 3-inch ridge, while the clutch and traction control argue about algorithms, slippage, friction, and risk. Admittedly, a reflective study of the manual could have saved one the embarrassment, but most people who ride bikes are men, and men don't read manuals. Previous decades were spent developing engines too powerful for one-wheel traction. Now they are developing ways to make the torque less dangerous, the braking less powerful. So us dumb clients can still pay for too much power, consoled by the knowledge that various traction controllers will safely prevent us from using it. But the biggest mismarketing lay in the growing size and weight of these machines. Imagine calculating from the ground up. Performance is limited by traction. The rear wheel starts slipping at around 60 Newton meters of torque. Yet we pay a fortune for an engine that produces 143 Newton meters. And having acquired the extra 240% of torque, the GS has gained 50 kilograms since 2006 to carry a bigger engine for superfluous power and more tech to limit the power back to 60 Newton meters. The primary difference is more weight, more cost, more maintenance, and less reliability. Yamaha built a T700 around this logic, with an engine that makes 60 Newton meters of torque, weigh much less, sound better, has less to go wrong at half the price of a new GS. Unlike the GS, it does not require the processing power of a moon landing to approach a traffic light, or consume as much fuel, or require as much concentration to find the required throttle mapping for crossing a patch of gravel. Of course, BMW is chasing KTM, who has never bothered with reliability. They seem committed to catch them. At least you will have a TFT screen with many menus to amuse yourself while waiting for the roadside assistance, who may fix your bike via satellite as soon as the next orbit coincide. Motorcycles are not the only devices that require software updates. The oddness we initially feel with the seating, the power, the clutch, and the keys soon disappear as we start riding. This is not because the bike adjusts itself to the rider, but the rider adjusts to the bike. It's a form of brainwashing that soon convinces us that it is normal. Until, of course, we get back on the old bike again. This normalizing effect hides from us the real danger of traveling at speed, whether in a car or a bike. But with every con, there is a pro. And when we allow ourselves to discover the upside of going slowly, of not paying for unusable power or excessive weight and expensive electronics, we have truly uncovered the treasure. A bike with half the price, half the size, half the complexity has a real chance of doubling your joy and life expectancy. A friend and I decided it is time for new bikes. We both had GS1200 BMWs from 2006, and he bought the new GS1250 as I purchased the XT700 Yamaha, with which we embarked on a journey around the Western Cape. We were both ecstatically happy with our choices and caustically critical of each other's. He called my T700 a downgrade, mainly because it's not a BMW, but I was content that it can upgrade steeper terrain than his 1250. We were perfectly pleased to exchange insults as and when the opportunity presented itself. Of course, the BMW in this regard was much more deserving, mainly when its electronics require a study of the manual in some spot where there is no cell signal. This bike is so advanced it can get stuck in a driveway or in a desert when the alignment of Jupiter causes a disruption in the reboot sequence of its instrument cluster. I was unable to get stuck on the T7. My biggest surprise, however, is not the fantastic T700. Its conquering half a ton of BMW was no surprise to me at all. The inspiration for this video flows from my frequent rides on a XT250 that I bought for my girlfriend. Yeah, I was so happy to find a girl, so I could have an excuse to buy a small bike, as I have long suspected it would be an absolute blast to travel our continent on a bike that weighs almost nothing, costs not much more, is easy to service, cheap to maintain, and such an utter joy to ride. Once you give some real thought to what you need from a motorcycle, the primary upgrade required is the rewiring of your mind. Expose yourself to the joy of unhurried travels and be astonished at all you used to miss on your now frequent stops to take pictures, have coffee breaks, and of course, rest your bum. Unlike what the marketing team would have you believe, size do matter. The less you have to handle, the more energy you retain for nobler pursuits. As the first ever bike reviewer stated it so well, do not conform to the pattern of civilization, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what is good and pleasing and perfect.